Okay, so welcome everyone to the deep dive. We're going to be going pretty deep today into some really interesting stuff about business, marketing, and sales.
Yeah, we've got a whole lot to unpack today. A really diverse set of sources. We've got historias, ideas, diarrheas, for one.
Yeah, and those are awesome. And then a whole bunch of
Well,
emails,
a whole series of emails, really, all about copywriting, business principles.
like how to really make your business work. And we know you guys, our listeners, you're all about getting that knowledge fast
Exactly. You want the good stuff, the actionable advice, and you want to get it quickly.
and thoroughly.
Hmm,
Right. We don't want to skim the surface here.
not at all. That's why we're doing this deep dive, to give you the real core insights, the stuff you can actually use.
Yeah, think of this as like cutting through all the noise, getting straight to the stuff that matters. And we've got a lot of ground to cover.
We do, from understanding your customers, like really understanding them, to AI, to PowerPoint even.
Stuff you might not expect, but trust me, it's all connected. It's all about getting that fresh perspective.
That's what we want you to walk away with. New ways of thinking, new tools for your business or your career.
Without feeling totally overwhelmed.
Exactly. We want to energize you, not exhaust you.
Okay, so let's jump right in. One of the biggest things that kept coming up was understanding your customer.
Absolutely. Knowing what they want, what they need, even before they know it themselves sometimes.
Yeah. Like, there was this great analogy in one of the pieces from January 28th, I think. Compared the human brain to, like, being in a relationship.
We're like a partner.
Exactly. It was saying that to really communicate well and to sell well, you got to get that same level of understanding.
Like you just know what the other person needs, even if they haven't said it out loud.
Yeah, and that's powerful stuff. It's not just about broadcasting your message, it's about tuning in.
Tuning into their frequency.
Yeah.
And then there's the contrast thing too,
Yeah?
also from that January 28th piece.
Oh, right, the contrast. So making it crystal clear how what you offer is different.
Different and better than the alternatives. You got to show people what sets you apart. Make them see it.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And it's not just logic either, right? Emotions are huge.
Huge. I mean, look at advertising. They use emotion all the time.
Yeah. Oh, there was this newsletter from January 25th talked about emotional marketing and storytelling. It used like a picture of a sleeping baby.
Oh, I love those.
Right. And it was saying how that one image can trigger all these memories, feelings, instant connection. And that's what good marketing does.
Caps into those deep emotions. That's what a lot of those emails were about. Like you can't just list features and benefits in your copywriting. You got to tell a story, make people feel something.
Oh, and that reminds me of Aristotle too. Ethos, pathos, logos, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You nailed it. Pathos, that's the emotional connection, what resonates with your audience on that deeper level. But you need the other two too, of course.
Yeah, ethos. So building trust, showing your credibility, and logos. The logical argument. It all works together.
It's like a three-legged stool. You need all of them for it to stand strong.
Love that analogy. Okay, switching gears a bit. We saw some really interesting stuff on positioning yourself strategically.
Oh yeah, some counterintuitive stuff there.
Yeah.
Like the idea of being the second option. Intentionally.
Like Burger King going up against McDonald's. That was in the January 26th material, right?
Right. And it's brilliant because it flips the script. We always hear, be number one, be the best. But sometimes there's an advantage to being number two.
I can see that. Like you can be the underdog.
Exactly. You can be the one who tries harder. Like Avis with their classic ad campaign that was in the January 24th newsletter. They owned that second place spot, and it resonated with people. People who wanted that extra bit of attention, that personal touch.
So the takeaway there is figure out what might seem like a weakness and turn it into a strength.
Yeah. Like that story about the sculptor, Pedro, January 23rd, I think. He couldn't mass produce his work, but he turned that into a selling point. His stuff was unique, handmade, and people were willing to pay a premium for that.
So it's all about knowing your customer, knowing what they value, and not being afraid to be different.
Yeah, that was another big theme. Don't just follow the trends. Don't blend in. You got to stand out, grab attention.
Like that newsletter from January 22nd, right? Was that the one that talked about trends?
That's the one.
Yeah.
The core function of marketing, it said, is to cut through all the clutter. You can't do that if you're doing the same thing as everyone else.
Yeah, right. And this all goes back to the value proposition. Like, what makes you special? Why should people choose you?
ChatGPT was hammering that point home in a bunch of the emails. Why you? That's the question you got to be able to answer. Clearly, concisely.
Okay, so let's talk tech. The digital landscape is changing everything, right?
Oh, yeah. And it's moving fast. Like that example from January 21st about drones and AI changing construction work.
Even construction, it's everywhere, so we got to adapt.
Adapt or get left behind. That's the message.
Yeah.
And then there was that whole thing with Trump and TikTok.
Oh, yeah. January 20th, that
Yeah.
was a wild one. I mean, it's a specific situation, but it shows you the power dynamics.
And the potential pitfalls
Yeah.
of building your whole business on someone else's platform. Like, what if TikTok just disappeared tomorrow?
Exactly. That's what that January 19th newsletter was talking about. You got to own your customer data. You don't want to be renting space in someone else's digital world.
Right. Build your own house, so to speak. And that goes for everyone. Doesn't matter how old you are, how tech savvy you are.
Yeah, that was January 18th, right? Digitalization is essential for any business these days.
No matter what you're selling. And speaking of digital, we got to talk about AI. It's not going away.
No, it's not. And we actually need to learn how to talk to it, like, effectively.
Right. Give it the right instructions. That March 5th email had some good tips on that from the University of Maribor, I think.
Oh, yeah, those were good. They had, like, 8 recommendations. Things like assigning a specific role to the AI.
Telling it you're a marketing expert, for example. Or using negative prompts. So telling it what you don't want.
Like, don't use jargon or don't be too formal. Stuff like that.
Exactly. And being super specific. The more detail you give it, the better the results.
They also talked about defining your audience, specifying the style you want, keeping it concise.
And breaking down complex tasks into steps. Even prompting the AI to ask questions if it needs more info.
It's wild, right? Like, we're learning how to communicate with machines now.
And it's only going to get more important. But the key takeaway is AI is a tool. And like any tool, you got to use it right to get the most out of it.
Okay, let's dive into sales techniques now. We saw some good stuff on that, like Thomas Smith's guide on advertising.
Oh yeah, that's a classic. Shows you the fundamentals. And some things never go out of style, right?
Right. And then we saw Aristotle again. Ethos, pathos, logos, popping up all over those March emails.
It's foundational stuff. You can apply it to any kind of communication, whether you're writing an email, giving a presentation, even just having a conversation.
And then there's the whole thing about having a clear commercial offer.
Oh yeah, that's crucial. March 2nd, I think. You got to tell people exactly what you're selling.
Yeah.
And what's in it for them.
Make it simple, make it obvious. No one likes to be confused. And don't try to do too much at once either.
That's a recipe for disaster. We saw that in those pairs negocios sections. The worst business.
Oh, yeah. Those were fun to read. But the lesson is clear. Focus, focus, focus.
And learn to say no. March 4th had a good piece on that.
Learning to say no.
Yep. To opportunities that aren't a good fit. Or to clients who are hesitant. Protect your time and energy.
Makes sense. And it can actually be a good thing for the client too, right?
Absolutely. No one wins if you're both not fully committed.
Okay. And then there was this super interesting thing about selling the vision before the product's even ready.
Oh, I loved that one. That was from the Mobile World Congress observations, March 7th, right?
Yep. So it's like getting people excited about the future, building anticipation.
Exactly. They're not just buying a product, they're buying into a possibility. And that's powerful stuff. And on a slightly related note, there was that great tip about PowerPoint presentations.
Oh, yeah. March 8th. Start with a mind map. And then explain it like you're talking to a 12-year-old.
So simple, but so brilliant. Gets rid of all the jargon, makes it easy to understand.
Okay, and then there was that thing about websites for software and tech companies.
Yeah. March 9th. Don't focus on the features, focus on the benefits. What problem are you solving for the customer?
Make it about them, not about you. And this kind of ties into that whole thing about attracting the right customers.
By deterring the wrong ones. Yeah, that was March 10th. Like, if you're all about quality, don't be afraid to highlight that, even if it means a higher price.
Because the people who are only looking for the cheapest option, they're probably not your ideal customers anyway.
Exactly. And it all goes back to clarity, right? That was March 11th. Explain what you do clearly and simply.
No jargon, no fluff, just the value you provide. And then there's that practical guide to starting an e-commerce business.
Oh, yeah, March 12th. Step-by-step instructions, domain names, security, hosting, WordPress, landing page, everything.
Really helpful stuff for anyone wanting to get online. And then March 13th talked about being direct in your messaging.
Focus on what the customer gains.
Yeah.
Address their fears, their doubts.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to talk about money.
Yeah, make it clear what they're getting for their investment. And then there was that shift from celebrating effort to celebrating results.
Oh, that's important. March 15th. It's not about how hard you're working, it's about what you're achieving.
Measure your progress. See what's working, what's not. And then that bit about asking customers what they want.
March 16th. It's tricky, right? Because people don't always know. or they're not always honest.
So use indirect questions, offer choices, get to the real truth.
Exactly. And then there was that great analogy about the three glasses.
Oh yeah, March 17th. You can't hold a third glass if your hands are already full.
So you got to let go of something to make space for something new, whether it's an old strategy, a limiting belief, whatever.
Love that. And then, for the trade show, folks, there was some good advice.
March 18th. Pre-show marketing is key. And don't expect to close deals right there. It's about building relationships, generating leads.
Okay, and then we had that thought-provoking bit about free stuff.
March 19th. People don't always value what they get for free.
Like those free university courses no one shows up to,
Yeah.
or Shakira's free concert that was almost empty.
It's counterintuitive, but it's true. Sometimes charging a price actually increases the perceived value.
Makes you think, right? And then March 20th took that idea even further, comparing free software to paid software.
Like Linux versus Windows. Even free social media, there's a cost. We're the product being sold to advertisers.
So there's always a trade-off. And then March 21st talked about free samples versus free products.
Samples work because they're low commitment. You get to try before you buy. But giving away the whole thing for free can backfire.
People get suspicious, or they don't value it as much.
Makes sense. Okay, and then there was that big picture idea about businesses being like biological systems.
Oh yeah, March 22nd. Thinking long-term, adapting, evolving, growing, like an ecosystem.
It's a more organic approach. Less about rigid plans, more about responding to change.
I like that. And then finally that concept of self-disqualification.
Ah, yes.
Mm.
March 22nd again. Most people don't even believe they can achieve certain things.
So the competition might be way smaller than we think. That was a real eye-opener for me.
It is, isn't it?
Mm.
So there you have it. A whole whirlwind of insights, from understanding your customers to using AI to building a sustainable business,
It's a lot to digest, but hopefully it's given you some food for thought.
and some actionable tools to take away.
Now, as you go about your day, your week, think about this. What resonated with you the most? What challenged your assumptions?
Are you focusing too much on effort, not enough on results? Are you really understanding your customers? Or are you just asking the obvious questions?
And what do you need to let go of to make space for new growth, new opportunities?
Take some time to really reflect on these ideas. Apply them to your own life, your own work. That's how you make this knowledge truly valuable.
And that's what the deep dive is all about.
Thanks for joining us.